Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I'll be your mindset coach today. And today we have a special bonus episode with Shaily Hakimian, and we're going to be talking about social media, the good, bad, and the ugly. Now, a little bit about Shaily is that she helps guide people on how to be unforgettable. And she uses social media as that platform, that tool. She loves cutting down the shiny object syndrome of the choices her clients have to make and makes marketing simple and easy. She teaches them how to give their network more information, how to make their business run more effectively and smoothly. Now, she shines on LinkedIn, but she also helps people on several other platforms. You name it, she's been there. And she's coached so many people on how to get a better social media presence. And the tips that she has given me has been invaluable. And I encourage everyone after listening to the interview with her and I to go to your social media, serpa.com, and then to reach out to her and say, hey, I'm interested in getting to the next level of my business. Or maybe I'm interested in having you on the podcast to have a conversation. So simply talking about social media is going to be the first part, but she has so much more to give than just, well, what do we post? How do we post it, right? She has so much knowledge. She has so much experience in her own personal life where she sees what's happening in the world and she has some answers how to fix that. So let's get into that interview with Shaily and myself.
How did we end up here? We used to laugh so hard. When did we stop loving, babe?
Welcome, Shaily Hakimian, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Excited to be here. Pleasure to be on your show and to get that good, chill, lovely energy that I've heard from many of your episodes.
Thank you for being a watcher, listener. And I have you here as a social media consultant. I know that's kind of a vague term, but can you tell the audience what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So my company's called Your Social Media Sherpa. I help. But here's the shtick. The shtick is I help people be unforgettable in 100 days, giving them clarity and accountability, doing their own marketing. But what I do that's like far deeper and maybe a little bit more coachy energy is I help people amplify their awesomeness. I feel like I sound like a million buzzwords here, but I find that a lot of times like clients that I respect, that are confident, that are like amazing people, they have a really good reputation in their world. They're scared to talk on the internet because they think that like they have to put their deepest, darkest secret out on the web, or they think like, oh, what do I have to say to people? Or am I showing off? And in reality, they have a lot of stuff that they would tell any person they met on the street if they asked them about themselves. So why not amplify all of these amazing stories into the world? So one of the fun examples I share, and this is from an intern I had last year. I asked her, like, I try to figure out what makes her jazz. And she's like, well, I really like event stuff. I'm like, well, why do you like event stuff? And she tells me that she almost loved her Sweet 16 planning more than the event itself. And I was like, what does that tell you about how much you love events? And I think the next day after that conversation, she talked to like another job position for getting her hired for an events thing. And I think she got the position. I'm sure the story helped. She mentioned it, right? So every person has amazing insights in their heart and in their soul that they don't know how to put out that can amplify what their people in their world already know makes them awesome. And I help them kind of scale that to remind their network they're awesome at what they do. So helping them stay in touch with the people who are likely to bring them their next customer, their next job, or their next whatever. So that's a little taste of the Sherpa experience.
And I find it interesting that people come to you and they are shy, right? I don't want to have my voice out there. I don't want to put myself out there. They're maybe shy, maybe they're timid. Where do you think that stems from? Do you think it stems from just their upbringing, or is it something that society has said, okay, if it's on the internet or if you put yourself out there, there's a chance or an opportunity to be ridiculed and judged?
That's a big question. Mm-hmm. One of them I'm thinking even just for myself, because like it took me a lot of time to put out more online. Like I was online for a long time, but I get scared of like, is what I'm saying valuable? I think the show off thing, especially with women, is a huge one of like, I don't want to show off, but also, and this is maybe my own personal tangent, is that like some people post like annoying things on the internet that I don't care about, or they're salesy, or like, they're like, look, I got this award that you've never heard of before. And I'm like, do I really care? No. And it's like one of my clients, she's 23 years old and she's like super nervous to put stuff online because she doesn't want to give off that vibe at all. And so she doesn't want that energy. So I think that's part of it. The other thing is that, again, this people don't know that like they can talk about them liking to cook or wanting to dance or liking to travel. Like those are very low barrier things they can share that people want to hear about that are not hard. If you've got tips on travel, you've got tips on, mortgages and tips on like mistakes you make in real estate, whatever it is, there's lots of things that you would say to people if you talk to them, and you don't realize that stuff is like, they don't validate that stuff is stuff that other people might want to hear or that can be helpful to them.
Yeah, the conversation that we can have, right? You and I, other people want to listen to that. Other people want to be a part of it. And I saw a funny like meme, or it was like a video of people sitting next to the TV, listening to a podcast or watching a podcast of two people talking, because it's kind of like you're having a conversation, but you're not allowed to speak in the conversation with them.
Whoa.
And that's powerful because two people are talking and you're not able to speak. So it helps with your listening skills, number one. But number two, you get to become part of a community per se. And when you're a part of a community, there's a safety net that happens in our mind where I'm in this clique, I'm in this group, this is my safe zone, right? So they find a little place where they can be themselves per se. But is that a good thing to stay in just one small community? Wouldn't it be more interesting to join other people's communities and get different outlooks from other people? Or should someone find a little home and stay there?
This is juicy. Oh, I love this. Well, I'm a community junkie. I should share that. Like, I love being in a million communities. I asked a friend once, I'm like, how many communities are you in? And she's like, am I supposed to be in communities? And I was like, what? And I'm in so many. The other thing I'll say, and I can't speak to everyone's experience, but the kind of people that I work with, they usually have a network of people that love and adore them that maybe they're in community with, whether it's their own one-on-one relationships, or maybe they're part of the same chamber of commerce or the same nonprofit board. A lot of times I think people have that and they're in it, but like when you're on the internet, you can tangibly see it or feel it more. When I look at people who engage with my content on LinkedIn, that's my favorite. I love LinkedIn. It's people that I know. It's people that I've been in community with throughout my career, whether it was when I was a teacher, whether I was an activist, whether I was doing social media as a freelancer all like 8 years ago, to like, various nonprofit connections I've made over the years. And so it's a way for me to like physically and tangibly feel my community. So I think people should start with their people first, but I think there's also lots of places to find community on the internet. Like I love every Facebook group for every condition I think I have, to like financial related groups, to like people who like the reality shows like Big Brother and Survivor that are my favorite. So it's nice to find people who understand me at a certain level, but when it comes to your business, it's nice to feed your people first. Oh, I think that's a start. Thoughts? This is juicy.
And when we started the conversation, right, we talked about being unforgettable.
Yeah.
There's so many different routes we can go with that, right? Being unforgettable, is it just making ourselves present online, or is it maybe more creating a legacy? So for example, when I'm dead and gone, my podcast is going to be on YouTube unless YouTube goes away, or is going to be an audio as long as my credit card keeps going and people keep paying the credit card, right? That's going to be something that's always there for me. And then, of course, if I create books, whatever I create, that's going to be there. And that's what I think about, too, because if we think about some of the greatest philosophers in life, they still have a profound impact in society where, I know about Socrates. I know about, talking about Abe Lincoln or George Washington with the cherry tree. There's so many quotes that we get from people that just because they live one life, it doesn't mean that what they have imbued upon society or the world vanishes once they leave. So creating that impact, becoming unforgettable, how does social media play an impact in that?
I think it's everything you said. You're talking about like people in history, right? There's books that like are still relevant to this day, right? And the modern version of the radio and a book is like a podcast, as a post, as a blog, potentially. Hopefully the internet will keep going. And it's the same thing as like there's content that will live on, and maybe will live on in a more impactful way long down the line. And I think that's the thing that like, the way we knew people, like I think of like, the movers and the changers, the networkers, the connectors, right? Like whoever like facilitated a charity getting a lot of money, to like, I put on a gala, to like, I was the president of whatever organization. I keep thinking charity here. Like there's a legacy there that lives on in the organizations. And a lot of times it's from like people interacting with each other, right? Like there's plenty of people that I'm sure will remember you forever based on their interactions with you, and every podcast guest, every person you've worked with, every client. And they're holding that legacy in their hearts. But there is a digital way to capture that, right? Is that maybe there was something you said on a coaching call that, and actually one of my clients does this. Her podcast is literally putting on coaching calls on the air for people to listen to. And so you could hear these people's real life experiences instead of just that one person getting the impact of that conversation. Now, kind of like what you said earlier, everybody who's listening to it can hear the same kind of life lesson that she teaches that one person. And I think that, you know, it lets people scale that opportunity to teach, which I think is beautiful, but also keeps all the knowledge out of her mouth. This is a good question. So I think it documents your brain just like a book would. But it's instead of a book, you've got a blog, or you've got a video, or you've got this. And I think that's really beautiful. And it lets people build that relationship with you, right? They don't have to talk to you on the phone for them to get a taste of how awesome you are.
Yeah, definitely. I put a lot of content out for people to not need coaching per se, but when they want to get coaching, they get so much more from it. So when I have my podcast, my blogs, my website, everything, people can go there and they can get something for free, right? Because I understand coaching is not going to be something that's viable for everyone, right? And what I want is to provide help for people if they can't get coaching. One of the common threads I get from people first coaching call is, wow, this is better than I thought. And it's always, it's so interesting. It's like, well, you thought it was gonna be bad or something. And I was like, yeah, I understand too, because many people just think like, okay, we're going to talk about my problems and you're going to say, well, you know, you got to do this, you got to do that. We dive deep because what I do is looking at your mind. If I don't know if you had coaching or if you maybe saw some of the episodes where I talk about, I look for the answers that you don't tell me. And when I find those answers, I present them to the person. They're like, you're right. Because many times we put fluff on top of what we say so we don't hurt ourselves too badly. And what I find is that social media is a way for us to pretend to be someone we're not. Think about people who take a picture in front of a Learjet, or they take a picture driving a fancy car, but they're really at the dealership. They want that status symbol, but they really are not living that life. And I wanted to get your take on that. And then I'm going to touch base on something else.
I hate that. I hate those people. I hate those people. It's not real. It's fake. It's not, I don't like it. I will say the thing about like authenticity, I think the authentic word has come up with a lot of clients. Like, I want to feel like it's authentic. And there's more than one way to social media that feels right for them. But the other thing I want to mention, you were talking about community earlier, and I feel like I need to make sure I say this. Part of my story of even figuring out that I wanted to do something social media related came from a need of me being a bullied only child. I was pretty chubby. I didn't know how to socialize. I didn't know how to make friends till I was in high school. I was bad at reading. Like, I was not the first kid that people wanted to become friends with. And for me, the first time I felt like I really made good friends was on MySpace on the internet. And I felt so much less alone because people could relate to me and who I was and what I was interested in, which at that point was Big Brother and Survivor, because I love those shows. Obsessed. But it made me feel connected to people. And I felt like there was this whole world on that MySpace forum of people who wanted to be a part of, we had a little other niche community within this community that didn't really have a home to be together, to have conversations about an even more niche topic within our reality competition show fandom. And so I was like, let me manage this community. And it brought us all together around the thing that we love. And I think for me, that was beautiful and life-changing. And I think that's great. Are there people like you're talking about that are exploiting the internet to show off fantasies and hopes and dreams that people are never going to achieve? Yeah. And I hate that. But also there's plenty of good people who people already know are amazing. It's just, we're trying to show off those amazing things that everybody else in their world sees already so that more people can see it. And I think that's what's really special. And I think that's much more longevity related than somebody just trying to scam you into sell this and make $1 bajillion e-course or whatever the heck is going on. I equally hate those people. So.
But it goes deeper though. It goes deeper to these people pretending to do this. And it's not so much about, okay, I'm going to have people like me, subscribe to me, follow me, whatever it be.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to cover up something, right? They're covering up the pain. And when they're all alone in their home, they go to their Instagram, their Facebook, MySpace, whatever, and they are looking for attention. They're saying, okay, I'm going to put this provocative picture up and then I'm going to get attention. They are hungry for attention. And one of the most powerful things a person can do is learn how to be alone, whether it be in their
Ooh.
mind or by themselves physically, because I am perfectly fine by myself. And if I have a dog, great. But if not, not a big deal. And I find that these people are just in need of constant attention from other people. They need to be acknowledged. Where if they're not being looked at, if they're not being
Ugh.
appreciated, liked, then they feel like, okay, I can't fill this void in my life. And many people have this emptiness inside of them that they're afraid to fill, and they're using social media as a
Ugh.
band-aid, and that doesn't fix it long term. So
Nope.
they are suffering from depression, they're suffering from anxiety, and they're trying to figure out, how can I be happy right now because I had such a rough life. I maybe made myself to be a victim. Maybe I didn't have the best upbringing, whether it be
Ugh.
childhood or school. But now people like me, people appreciate me. But that's
Ugh.
all facade, because we're just going online and we're saying, okay, look at me, everyone. I'm this beautiful. But at the same time, it's all a lie. So that should, in some way, have a negative impact on the brain, because we can only trick our brain for so long. We can trick the community, we can trick the people that are seeing our videos and our pictures. Everyone says, oh, look at this person, they're going on another trip again. Oh, they have a new pair of shoes again. And before you know it, that person, might have, stop posting. Why? Right? Because they finally hit a breaking point where they're like, I can't keep up with this anymore. This lie is only hurting me. What do you think about people pretending to be something they're not online, and then trying to make a means for their audience, saying, hey, you can have this too, but they don't even have it
Ugh.
themselves?
Oh, that's so many. That's so, oh, there's so many layers. There's, first off, there's like imposter syndrome in general for people who sell services that maybe they're not good at themselves or they know a certain aspect of. A lot of women have that. That's already one side piece. The other thing is I love about my generation is that like we're very open about getting therapy and getting mental health support. And like all I'm hearing is like they need a therapist, they need someone to talk to, they need something, or they need a community to be in. Because this, the superficial stuff is what we've seen in the media with every celebrity for the past bajillion years, is probably why there's so much challenges with celebrities, is because they live their life based on, oh, here's my Instagram feed. I don't like any of that stuff. They need some therapy. Do I have the answers? Maybe, you know what they need to do? This is the answer. They need to call you and they need you to come and center them and make them find more meaning elsewhere, because it is not fun. I don't think I've ever lived like that. But also too, like, yeah, there's people who sell stuff that they're not necessarily good at. Like it's like, oh, I got 80,000 this 1 month, but now I'm going to teach you how to do it and pretend like I do this every month. Like it's fake. And, or maybe it'll work for a few months, but like nothing like that is sustainable. Like, there's all these courses that teach you like how to be an Instagram star, how to be a YouTube star, how to be a TikTok star. And granted, they probably have good tips. Are those tips sustainable for someone who doesn't have the same skill set as the one who produced the course? Probably not. And at some point in 2 or 3 years, that information will become outdated and it won't work. You have to have your own flavor, your own spin, your own relationships, your own people to speak to. And like, yeah, somebody might like your shoes today, but are they going to care about you tomorrow? No. But if you change their lives and give them, I don't know, ADHD tips, if you give them sales tips, if you give them motivational tips, productivity tips, then they're going to be like, wow, this person has really help me navigate whatever my bad situation is. And then that's a real relationship, right? Yeah. Is it as glamorous as getting a million hits on showing body parts that are not commonly shown on the internet? Probably not as quickly, but are those relationships going to be more meaningful? Absolutely. And if you're a business, can you get more out of it? Yeah. And you're getting it more out of it from people who are coming with like a genuine good vibe and that you're impacting. So I like what you and I do. We try to make the world a little bit of a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more impactful long-term, right? For your podcast listeners and for your followers and your crazy amount of YouTube subscribers, right? And that's longevity right there. That's the legacy we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And for me, a former educator, and
teachers.
exactly. So we get a kid, kindergarten, right? We bring them up to 8th grade.
Yeah.
That kid is going to be taught in a certain way, because when you get your next kindergartner in 9 years, they're going to need a different type of education. And the reason why is because society is changing. music that was relevant for that kindergartner initially is going to be different, or trends where, whether it be clothing styles, language, whatever it be, that trend right there is going to play an influence or have an influence or impact on that child in their education. So teachers do have to be aware of that. Where I would be on social media, I would listen to hip hop or something that was trending, or find something that was trending, and then relate that to the students. And they will always say, whoa, like it would shock them because I'm doing something that is relevant to them. And then that makes learning more impactful, because now I'm saying, okay, this is where you are. I'm going to bring learning right to you. However, there is a basis for education. There's a basis for mindset, right? We can teach the same things, but it has to be taught in a different manner. And as long as we can understand the manner that needs to be brought to a given person, then we can really make an impact. But you have to have that experience. So for me, like I said, I taught K to 12. So I kind of know how each age group is going to be. So I say, okay, kindergartners are this way, third graders are this way. And this is going to be like a blanket thing. Of course, there's going to be some outliers, but for the majority of people, they're going to be taught a certain way. And the only thing I have to do to make myself relevant to them is insert trend. And as long as I insert the trend, I can figure out where their mindset is going. And the quality of our youth today, cognitively, is a bit lower, right? I'm not saying that our kids are dumbed down, but I'm saying that they don't have the same opportunities that we had to face, because there's a cell phone in everyone's hand, right? They don't have to,
Yep.
okay, I'm going to go get this big dictionary or go to the library for hours at end and try to figure this out. That is going to require more brain power than if I just went on the internet and got something. So education in a whole is changing per se. And that's why I had started my business, because when I was a teacher, I saw a hole in the education system, not only because of limiting beliefs, but because of technology. So now social media has the ability to be an educator for people. But what social media typically does is educate people in the wrong manner. So there's a bad side to social media. And that bad side is going to be, I'm learning from what is the current trend. So, for example, if you go on Twitter, what is a
Yep.
current trend, right? And then you see number one, this is the current trend. And then I'm going to talk about this current trend. I'm going to think about this current trend. I'm going to worry about this current trend. But my life doesn't have to be that current trend long term, but they make it long term. How can people be more focused on the moment rather than what's happening around in their society and in life?
Ooh. Ooh, you are like juicy, juicy questions. Huh. I definitely am not a big trend person. I do not jump in on trends. I will say it was on TikTok since 2016. It did get a lot bigger the last couple of years, but I like to watch what happens, because following a trend isn't sustainable, because it's fun for a minute and then it's fleeting. Just like we said, the shoes, the looking at the car, it's all fleeting. I will say, yes, there's a lot of bad in social media in terms of like people getting sucked into things. I actively have chosen to not go on TikTok as much. I skipped 6 days of TikTok this month, which was an accomplishment because I love TikTok, but it's very addicting. There is a lot of education there, but it also kills my attention span. Huh. It's what you do with it, right? It's how you take it, right? If you're like, I look at the kids, they don't hang out anymore. Like they could just look at their phone. And even like I'm just sitting with friends and like sometimes we'll all have our phones out. I'm like, this is terrible. Like this is not good. And I'm like a millennial. Like we didn't always have cell phones when I was a kid. And it's hard. I will say though, again, like the beauty for me, yes, there's a lot of bad ways to get education online, but the beauty for me is that like, well, yeah, the world is at our fingertips. You mentioned that. That's amazing. But it also means that connection to people who are most like us is also one click away. Is I can now, and unfortunately, this is the best and the worst thing about TikTok, is that I can find other Middle Eastern or like Persian Jews on TikTok. That's a random example, right? Like I don't get to see a lot of my people on TV, but I get to see them on TikTok, and I would never have met them otherwise if it wasn't for their algorithm. Am I also sitting there for multiple hours when I probably could do something else? Yeah, absolutely. I hate that it comes out to our person. There's benefits to it. But then somebody made the point to me that, like, if we weren't addicted to TikTok, if we weren't addicted to social media, we would have been addicted to the TV or the radio or something else. But I also know that our kids are missing out on a lot. And I'm glad that you're trying to fill that gap. So it's tricky. But I will say the internet did change my life. So it's all about how you use it. I don't know if it's a full answer, but this is a juicy question. What do you think?
No, important, right? You can find relevant people or people who give you an experience that you might not find locally.
Yep.
But then we have to ask ourselves, what about the relationships that matter the most? Our parents.
Ooh.
We are on our phones at the table while we're driving home from school. We're on our phones. All we want is to be left alone in our rooms to stay connected with our friends or peer groups. So we don't create that bond with our parents. What is going to be the impact if children don't continue to strengthen the bonds of parent-child relationships?
Ooh. I don't know. I feel pretty lucky. I got to spend some good amount of time with my parents as an only child, but I don't know. I don't know. But there is somebody I follow on LinkedIn, and she's all about like internet safety and all that kind of stuff. But it's also like internet isolation, which I know is also something we're covering. It is not great. I don't know. It's rough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a parent. I don't know what that's like. I haven't been able to see as many kids as I used to, even though I also have a background in education. In the last few years, I haven't seen a lot of kids. It's heartbreaking. It's hard. And kids are being overworked now more than ever. They're all got activities and like hockey and Sunday school and other clubs and I don't know, Girl Scouts, whatever. It's a hard life being a kid. I don't know. I mean, it's really easy to be disconnected. And also the parents are also addicted to their phones too. The cutest thing, I'll give you the story. I was student teaching. This is like 7, 8, 9, I don't know how many years ago. And one of the parents had her cell phone out. And there was her baby that was less than 2 years old, like sitting on her lap. And so I was playing with my phone and I was sort of putting it near the baby's face. And she's like, oh no, we don't do screen time till they're 2 years old. And I was like, what hippie parent is going on here? What is this? And I was like, well, that's kind of wise. And then she told me the story about the broken iPad, where I guess some babies were going up to real life books and going like this with their fingers to try to zoom in on a real life book because they're used to an iPad or a tablet. And I'm like, oh, what? This is like 9 years ago. I'm sure it's way worse now. So I don't know. I'm literally making this up as we go because I don't know. This is hard.
So to answer your question, if I asked you to make a phone call with your hand, how would you do it?
I love this.
And then
I saw this on TikTok.
Exactly. And then now
the kids
it's
are
like
going
this,
like
right?
this.
Because
it's crazy.
It's because times are changing. And we do have to understand that the times are not going to be the same as we grew up, right? We're not going to expect our kids to be outside and to ride their bikes until the street lights come on, come home, covered in mosquito bites. We're not going to expect that from them because technology has captured them in a way where it's saying, well, I don't have to go outside. I can have fun right here. If I'm bored, I can download a new app. I can watch a new video. They don't have to be active anymore. And that activity level is going to have a huge impact, not only on their communication skills, but also their physical body too, because they are literally going to be sitting down just as a vegetable and like saying, this. Okay, yep, I'm just like home. I come home first thing. And now, the next day comes, I have to go to school. I don't really want to go to school because I can just do everything online. And I think last year was a good representation or the year before was, okay, well, we're going to do distance learning, right? Not many students were able to keep up with that distance learning through technology. And they were still social with people, but the communication skills that they get from talking to someone in person versus virtually, totally different because we are protected in our own home. If you think about it, when you're on vacation and you're on the airplane coming home, the only thing you want more than anything in the world is a shower in your bed because we're in our home. We're in a safe environment. We're no longer out. We don't have to deal with the flight stewardess, the captain, whatever, all the traffic. We are in a safe environment, and the home is a safe environment. However, now people can go on social media. They can go into someone's picture saying, hey, you look ugly in this picture. So cyberbullying is a bigger thing now. than it was in the past, but even though they had like AOL chat rooms.
That yes.
Exactly. But now it's evolved, right? So yes, you can maybe get a brief reprieve if you're in school and then you come home and you don't have to go to social media. But most of the time, if you don't go to social media, you're going to be outcasted as soon as you go to school because you miss that whole evening of what was happening in the group conversation with your friends. So they had hours of conversation that you're not a part of because maybe you didn't get any screen time. Because for me, I'm not going to allow my kids to have that much screen time, right? And it's not so much that I'm being like a tyrannical parent. It's just that I understand that having an abundance of screen time is going to lower the cognitive levels. That's why the CDC came out recently, probably 6 or 7 months now, and they lowered the child's developmental standards. Why did they do that? Because they did a whole distance learning for a year and a half. And they expect that kids are just going to be developmentally sound after that? No. So that now we have to get back to where they were, but that's not happening, right? That's not going to happen because they're just going to keep on going. Technology is going to keep on going. So it's up to the parents. If the parents want to help their children be a successful member of the community, of society, we have to limit how much social media they get per day or TV time per day. And we have to kind of keep it up with the old school way. And it's not so much, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That saying, we have to understand that, yes, we understand times are changing, but sometimes we have to keep up with the traditional way because the new school way is actually more harmful in the long run. Because when you get your kids that are graduating college, finally, look at them. Are they able to have a conversation? Are they able to make eye contact? All of those different things are going to be something that we have to pay attention to. And you can see it's a cascading effect of it's getting lower and lower and lower. Before you know it, where will we be? Are we going to have our phones speaking to everyone where we don't have to learn the language? We just say, okay, we're just going to type something in and then someone else reads it, or we don't say anything at all and we just text it all the time. And that's where society is heading if we don't say, all right, we're going to stop this technology thing and we're going to say, let's bring back communication. How can communication be brought back into the next generation rather than letting them continue with this maybe generational curse of what is technology and what is social media?
Oof. I just came to your TED Talk. It is oof. Man. So wait, you're posting on things. Do you love it? You sound like you hate it. Like it's like a no-go, but also it's like, I feel like society isn't set up to amuse you when there isn't a phone around. That is also really hard. Oh man. As you were talking, I was thinking about like, what is really the solution? I don't know, but there is limiting screen time. That is not a bad thing. I can totally understand that. Granted, somebody limited my screen time right now. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But what would have been really easy. And like you're talking about olden days, you could go down the street and you could see your friend or your neighbor and you could just show up to people's houses. We don't have that culture anymore. Like I'm Moroccan and Iranian, and my Moroccan heritage, very hospitality, actually both sides, very hospitality driven. You can knock on someone's door, and if they're home, hey, come on and have a cup of tea. Everyone always has cookies on hand. Like that hospitality culture doesn't exist anymore. Like luckily I'm Jewish. Like we do Friday night dinners. Like that's a thing every week. Like I think supposedly it's like Christmas every week. Like I have somewhere to be every week where I'll be around people and peers, and that's really fun. But like as a society, at least in an American culture, like, is that accessible? Is that a thing? I don't know. I love that about college dorms. College dorms are great because all my friends are right there. They're right nearby. And it's like, I wonder if life was easier to be accessible to the people that I loved, could I be off of social media? Like when I had a really cool neighbor live across the hall from me, like I loved that. I get to knock on her door a few nights a week. I could just talk with her on stuff. Nowadays, it's like you need to use a cell phone to coordinate. Oh, when are you free? I'm free now. I'm free later. There's no knocking on people's doors. There's a lot of boundaries up there. I don't think that helps either. So do I want social media abolished? Absolutely not. I do love it. It is part of my job, but I also think that it can do a lot of good, but there's also, how do you moderate that? That's, parent can moderate it, but like, what is the alternative, right? Do your kids, like you said, do they play across the street with their neighbors? I don't like, is that accessible depending on where you live? I don't know. And part of me is dreaming that I'll have like some sort of commune like where all my friends live together. Like that's a dream. Like my friend lives with another friend who's on top of his apartment and like they get to hang out all the time. I'm like,
Mhm.
I want that. I need to plan my life. I think that's my solution. Plan my life like that. But I don't know. But that's what I initial thought, right? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What I want to know what's going on with you too. I have lots of things I just said, but thoughts.
It's a death sentence actually for parents to limit their children's screen time per se, because then the child is going to be missing out on their peer group. So if I limit my kid's screen time, my kid is not going to be relevant in a group or a conversation.
Ugh.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword where it's like I understand the negativities of too much screen time, but if they don't get the screen time, then they're outcasted at the school. So then they feel even more, I guess, lonely, where they are not seeing things like, okay, I I want to make the change to not having as much screen time, but I'm not able to do that. Because if I do that, guess what happens? Then my kid suffers. And as a parent, I don't know many parents who want bad for their child.
No,
They want
yeah.
to protect them. They want to,
Oh,
always be their, hero. Be, if they need rescue, they're on the way. But at the same time, a child needs challenge, because if they don't have challenge, they're going to be an adult that didn't experience challenge. If they don't have a challenge as an adult, they're going to be entitled and they're not going to know how to regulate their emotions. And or if they are presented with a problem or dilemma, trauma, all of that is going to have an impact on their mindset. So that's why many people right now are in a state of, well, I'm just going along with the flow. That's why there's always a new challenge. There's always a new trend, because time has to keep on moving to keep us distracted. Because
ugh,
if we can be
right.
distracted and not pay attention to what really matters, then everything's okay for our subconscious mind, that
So,
is, because now we're
oh
not
yeah.
really focused on our true self, right? What is wrong with me? I'm just going to cover it up and not worry about it. Now, I can see the benefit, because then you can just go your whole life without having to deal with any problems. But what if you want to, going back to where we said in the beginning, what if you want to be unforgettable? What if you want to create that legacy? You can't just keep following a trend and expect to be
Nope.
part of a legacy that's going to last the test of time. We have to do something in a different way.
Yeah.
While following the crowd is not the answer. Yes, you can go on social media. Yes, you can post. And I try to limit my screen time as much as possible,
Good for
because
you.
I'm pretty busy. I'm just going to say that. And so I don't have the luxury to be on my phone aimlessly doing a bunch of stuff. So I have my assistant do most of my social media stuff. So I don't have to be on my phone saying, okay, I got to do a Twitter post. I got to do a LinkedIn post. I got to do all that. And it could be a huge time sink for me if I do that. And then I just have to think about it. If I spend an hour a day on social media posting things, yes, I'm doing maybe something good, giving some good quotes and letting people know to listen to the podcast. But at the same time, what could I do in that hour that's more beneficial? And Elon Musk has said this. He says, many times people give themselves a certain time limit. So they might say, I give myself 6 years to do this goal. He says, well, how can I do it in 6 months, right? He tries to compound what he will do into a shorter time span. So I look at my 24 hours in a given day. And if I get 23 hours because I'm going to be an hour on social media, I say, okay, well, how can I get back my 24 hours? Give it to someone else, delegate it. And I don't need to be relevant. If people want to do something on social media, but say something about me, I am super zen, where I have studied basically the art of meditation, being mindful. So if
Ooh.
someone has something to say negative about me, I just say, is that so? But you do have to understand the story of is that so? So typically when someone says something, I say, is that so? They say yes, because they want to be right. I paste the story and then I let them think about it. And then that's typically the conversation. But it's me not needing acceptance, right? Many people need that acceptance. If I'm not
Yes.
accepted somewhere, then what am I doing, right? being an outcast can be a good thing, especially in a society that's walking toward a cliff. So we have to make sure that, are we in the right group? Are we in the right community? Are we in the right crowd? And we have to look around. We have to say, are these people helping me get to where I want to be in life? Or are these people being an anchor, keeping me where I am in life?
Oh, yes. I love that. Actually, one of my social media mental health choices that I made, my friend Troy, he was like, you can just unfollow all the people you don't want to follow on LinkedIn who have all that toxic show-offy energy, and just getting rid of that made me feel so much better. But I also love the thing you said about how you get back your time and how to outsource. I think some of the magic, yeah, get your time back, but also some of the magic is, how do you bridge the impact you want to make with everything you say on the show to what people are seeing, right? Maybe there was a nugget in the show that you're like, oh, this follower that I have would really love that. How do you boil that to the top to let your person know, hey, maybe highlight this thing, or highlight the 3 main points of, whatever happened with Shaily today or whatever. Like, it's nice that you don't have to think about that, but also, like, what you're doing with that person doing those efforts for you is you're getting to amplify your voice, right? You're giving yourself a stage. You're letting more people see the person that they needed to meet all these years ago that can help them achieve something, right? They're getting a taste of you without having to go out there and talk to these people in person, which probably couldn't do anyway, because not everybody's in your neighborhood. Maybe they are, I don't know. But the unforgettable thing, right, is that it's a chance for them to connect with you, is that you get to have a deep conversation. Instead of having it with just one person, you get to have it with 50 people, 1,000 people, 300,000 people, whatever. And that's really the beautiful thing, is that we all have life lessons to teach. And sometimes when we can package that out and put it out to the world, we get to impact more people. And I think that's really beautiful. You can do one-on-one with someone. You can do a classroom of 20 people. You can be speaking to a group of 100 students every day, teaching at a museum. You could be educating people with your 100,000 followers on Instagram, and you could be doing it at a big conference with a whole theater worth of people. I don't know, but you're giving a chance for people to learn the things that they couldn't learn from the world that they live in, and you're curating that experience. And I think there's a beauty in that. Dangerous, but I think there's a beauty in that, and it's a beauty to bringing people together that would have otherwise not crossed paths. And I think that to me is beautiful, and I will appreciate that, but it's also how you use it. So I'm still going to be on the internets, but I hope you can be unforgettable too. You definitely have a lot of people that adore you, so should be proud.
Yeah, it's all about moderation too. Like a glass of wine, they say is good, but if you drink like a whole bottle, is that a good thing, right? You're probably going to be considered an alcoholic. Your liver has to work in overload just to clear out all the alcohol that you drank. Now, yes, again, it probably tastes good. It makes you feel good. If you had a stressful day, it's going to be a great de-stressor. And apparently, wine is a healthy option. So we have to learn that things in moderation can be a good thing, where people say, okay, you're not supposed to smoke, you're not supposed to drink. But if you do it occasionally, where you just say, okay, I'm going to do this for celebrations, or I'm going to do this for my birthday, a special event, we are living a life. Many people think that, oh, I have to moderate myself, and I can't go on social media because Michael said I can't go on social media. I can't do this because Michael said I can't do this. No.
Oh, I hope not. I hope not. Yeah.
Live your life. Live your life the way you see best, because you only get one. You have to just understand how much meaning do you want to create? What type of impact do you want to have? And one of the things I thought early on that I want to share with you before we do our final words is, I remember listening to a story, and it was a story of a woman who was starting a business and she wanted to be successful. And so she had got a mentor that was wildly successful. It's another woman. And so she was doing everything this woman said. And then they met probably a couple months later, about 6 months, I think. And then she was successful, but she didn't reach the success that she wanted to reach.
Yeah.
And then so she went to her mentor and she says, how can I be more successful? I want to be successful. And the mentor just looked at her and she said, baby, you're walking too softly. That's all she said, because she was walking too softly, thinking about the idea of tiptoeing. Many people tiptoe through life only to make it safely to death. So they don't want to make an impact. They don't want to make the splash. They want to just follow the crowd. That's what social media is, following the crowd. That's why you can go on TikTok and there's always a new trend. That's why you go to Twitter. You go to the search, what's trending and people talk about what's trending. They're not making an impact per se because they're literally talking about what everyone else is
Yes.
talking about.
None of that.
So the idea of someone wanted to be successful and they said, okay, I have to do something different that's going to shake the world rather than, okay, the world's already this way. I'm going to keep with what the world is doing. And that's the idea of, are we going with what life gives us, or are we being profound in the manner of us being in control of what we give life?
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the difference between having a strong mindset and then having a mindset that's conformed to society. Many people are afraid to be different. Many people are not concerned about the impact they're having as long as other people are saying, yeah, they're right. If no one watches my podcast or no one listens to me or reads my books or my blogs, that has no concern for me, because I
Beautiful.
have learned that as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and leaving breadcrumbs for someone, could be someone in 100 years, to find this and say, this is what I need. That's more impactful for me than doing a TikTok dance.
Amen to that. Yes. You're 100% right. And I think I've never been into trends. Trends come and go. There's entire accounts where literally just copy trends. And I'm like, well, what makes you special? What makes you stand out? And I think that's the hardest part, is that people forget that there's a unique lens of the world that each of us has. And there's no way, like, people don't get to show that off. Like that lady who loved hosting events, like that's her beautiful thing. And like, I love watching people realize how special they are when they don't always remember how special they are. We all have this like weird, unique superpower thing, and a unique way of looking at the world that somebody is curious about. Nobody's going to look at it the same way, but if we don't put that voice out there, nobody can connect with that, right? If you didn't have a book, how would they know that you're legendary, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're giving people an opportunity to connect with that stuff. And that's the stuff that's going to outdo the trends, because if you have 50 people, 100 people, 1,000,000 people that love what you do, even if it's 5 people, right, that you've given somebody a voice, you've given them some impact, you've given them a change, like that's the special thing, right? What makes you different? What makes you stand out? What are your perspectives of the world? You don't have to come up with some crazy social media idea. But if every day you tell people, well, here's the one thing I learned when I was a kid that helped me now, or here is the 5 mistakes I made going to college, or here's the 3 mistakes I made starting a business, or here's what I told my mentee that helped her achieve XYZ goal. Those are all insights that can help a lot of different people. And that's all you have to do. Or what are the questions that you get all the time? And how can you amplify the education that you're giving to the world? That is the consistent thing that I tell my clients, is like, tell me your story, tell me your perspective, tell me why you care. Right? I have a client that wants to make his own private social media profile where it's moderated by the people it serves.
Mm-hmm.
And he has some very strong beliefs about what kind of software he uses to do that. And I'm like, well, tell people why it matters so much, because I never heard of this before. And people want to know, right? People might want this. You're clearly seeing a need in the world that nobody else sees, or nobody else knows how to name, but you're naming it. People are going to gravitate to you. He went from quote tweet after quote tweet, or he was retweeting all the time. And I'm like, okay, content curation is like one aspect of social media, but now that he's actually put voice and he put perspective and he's telling people how he feels about stuff, he's in more conversations with people. They're connecting with him and maybe what he's going to build in the coming months. And I think that's really, really beautiful. So we all have that bit to share. Is it going to be beautiful? Is it going to be polished? Does it need to be edited? No, not necessarily, but giving people a chance to connect with it, that's going to open up the door, right? It doesn't matter what the trends are. Tell your story, tell your perspective. Give people the tips they didn't know they needed. Give people the advice that you didn't have as a child. That is an easy way to start. And again, it could start that legacy, just like you and I are talking about today.
Mm-hmm. And being able to start that story and to be true to that story, making sure you're not writing someone else's story. Write your own story, because what you're going to write is going to be unique and no one else can replicate that. Yeah, they might get close, but they haven't had your experiences and they haven't had your emotions, and they haven't dealt with what you had to deal with, because just because someone had the same experiences doesn't mean that they thought about them the same ways. So something could have been more impactful for you than for them per se, and vice versa. So what you write in a story, or in your story, is going to be unique to you. And when the world reads it, or when someone reads it in the world, they're going to say, this is true for me too. Or there's many similarities that I can take from this, right? That golden nugget per se, where I'm going to learn from wisdom rather than learn from my own mistakes.
Yes.
So what I want to get from you, Shaily, is some last words, and then of course tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. So last thoughts is everything you just said is that they're going to connect with your story, your experience. But because I do a lot with businesses, and especially businesses that serve other businesses and people who do people who offer all sorts of different services, it's exactly what you said, like connect with your story, but it's also like give people the information they didn't know they needed about your job, your industry, your show, whatever your thing is, whether you're a tutor, whether you're, I had a burlesque dancer as a client once. I have a rabbi turned sleep consultant that became a client. Whatever your thing is, give people the insights they don't know about the problem that you solve in the world. That is the simplest way to go. Answer those FAQs in your content. Speaking of FAQs, I do have a downloadable video on my website, yoursocialmediasherpa.com. Let's go back to the shtick. No, I'm just kidding. I'm here for the shtick, where I give people all sorts of content ideas to inspire years worth of content, which includes like answer these FAQs, tell me your story. Tell me what your customers always ask. And that's available for download in my shop, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I also have a collection of, and this is interesting, we're talking about what they do when they graduate from college. LinkedIn is a really big deal when it comes to your career and for many businesses. And so I made a collection of my favorite LinkedIn profiles. So whether you're a career changer, you're a young teenager that's learning about LinkedIn for the first time, whether you're a business, I put a collection of my favorite profiles. It's a free download on my website at yoursocialmediasherpa.com. And you'll also get really light, easy social media tips that will sustain you, not just for the social media that exists now, but for social media that hasn't even come out yet. Mm-hmm. Everything is applicable long-term. A lot of it is taking the people skills that maybe the next generation will be lacking and applying it to what you're doing on the internet. Is that the relational goodness is the same thing you do online. I just bridge that gap for folks. So you can get that on my website, yoursocialmediasherpa.com, all over the interwebs, too many places. I always like to leave people on this social media quote, especially if we have business owners in the audience, that social media is about the people, not about your business. Provide for the people and the people will provide for you. Mm-hmm. Not an original quote, but I love it.
No, definitely powerful too. So if any business owners out there listening, of course, check out her content, check out her website, her LinkedIn. It seems like her favorite place to be.
I love it.
And
for business. I love it for business.
And she's going to be able to get back to you. And of course, I want to thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me today. It was a pleasure and it was a blast.
Same here. Thank you for your time and keep up the good energy. You've got me thinking about a lot of juicy things. I have been thoroughly challenged on this. So if this is what you gave to me while being on your podcast, I can't imagine what you do for the clients. So this is amazing.
Thank you. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.